few weeks ago, I sat down and listened to the press conference that Trump did at Mar-a-Lago, and I was a little bit baffled at first when he said what I'm about to show you guys. And then it hit me. It's not so baffling at all that he said this.
Be doing very well with black males. This is according to polls, as you know. It's possible that it won't do as well with black women, but I do seem to be doing very well with other segments, extremely well with Hispanic. Jewish voters way up. White males way up. White males have gone through the roof. White males way up.
I'm doing really well with black men. I'm doing really well with Hispanic men. I'm doing really well with men altogether, and of course, white men. Now, most Republican nominees, if you say something like that, you're thinking to yourself, this guy's obviously cooked. He's not getting any support from women. He's not getting support from them at all. However, if you guys actually go online to the Wikipedia page, just the Wikipedia page, I don't endorse Wikipedia, but of course, it just gives you bare bones. Everything else can kind of sort of be filled in, but you can always get much more comprehensive information at other sites if you guys do your research all the way through. I'll link some of this in the description box for you guys. You'll notice that he's actually done better with women each election cycle. Now, really quick, before we get started, this right here is the first of two videos that I'm going to have out. This one right here coming out tomorrow on Thursday, roughly 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And of course, the second will be coming out on Friday. I'm going to have a couple of videos out this time, unlike last time I had surgery. And of course, I'm having surgery on Friday. I'll give you guys a couple more updates at the very end. But still, though, the point is this right here. Normally, presidential candidates don't brag about male voters. But of course, if you guys look at the actual statistics from 2016 and 2020, you'll notice that Trump obviously saw an increase with white women. Now, like I said, women will be discussed more in video number 2 before I head into surgery. But the thing is this right here. Typically, during election cycles, men and women, normally as married couples, normally vote the same, meaning they vote for the same party. Now, occasionally you'll get a party that, or you'll get a family that does not vote that way. Occasionally you'll get a man who's like a Republican, a woman who's a Democrat, or a woman that's a Republican, and a man that's a Democrat. A good example of this would be James Carville, if you guys remember who he is, former Clinton advisor. They even did some commercials back in 2012 before that election, where him and his wife were there arguing over stuff like, say, the air conditioning. His wife is a conservative, and obviously he is a Democrat. I think most people already know that if you actually have seen the commercials or seen him on MSNBC, then therefore you know that James has definitely gone off the reservation. But still, though, at the same time, though, why would a presidential candidate brag about the male support that he's getting? My guess is that it's because he's getting brand new voters, meaning he's registering new voters. I mean, think about something really quick. This past week, Trump has been on Sean Ryan's podcast. He has been on Theo Vaughn. He's been on Logan Paul's podcast. He's been on all these podcasts minus Joe Rogan, which, of course, could be a special topic at a later date. I may do a specialty video just to talk about him, so that way people can kind of see that he's not exactly the most reliable when it comes to these topics. But then again, though, I've ranted about Joe in the past. I'm not going to do it now. That's not the point of this video. The fact of the matter is right, you can win elections if you get enough male support to go along with enough women's support. That's normally how Republicans actually win. However, at the rate that Trump is going with registering brand new voters, and of course, putting up the numbers that have been posted about Republicans gaining votes, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that Trump will probably be able to win this election with overwhelming male turnout, which is normally a killer for Republican candidates. But still, at the same time, though, if you've got enough women to go along with this many men and married couples, you can win this election and actually win it by a massive landslide against any Democrat candidate. And of course, we all know that Kamala Harris is going to play the woman card over and over again, or at least the press will, because Kamala Harris doesn't do any interviews. However, that right there does not mean that we don't need to have a conversation. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. We got a lot to cover in a very, very short amount of time, even though the video is still going to be relatively long. You guys know me, I oftentimes contradict myself to actually just to have a little bit of fun. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you are subscribed, make sure you guys go ahead and cut on the notifications. Go to your phone, cut on the notifications for the channel. Go ahead and hit the like button so that way we can go ahead and beat the censorship, and let's go ahead and get into it. Now, before we talk about some of the opinions and some of the takes that's been kicked around, I need to set this up properly. So what exactly is going on with our media?
As I watched ABC Fake News this morning, both lightweight reporter Jonathan Karl, ridiculous and biased interview of Tom Cotton, and their so-called panel of Trump haters. And I asked, why would I do the debate against Kamala Harris on that network? Trump asked in his social media post Sunday evening. So this is the only debate they actually agreed to. It might not happen. We don't know for sure. We don't. But I want to show you this. This is going viral, and I think helps explain exactly where we are. El Resnick tweeted, this right here explains it all. Democrats, 73% in 2020 trust the media, 36% of independents, and 10% of Republicans. Will Chamberlain says, imagine thinking the mainstream media has gotten more trustworthy over the last 10 years.
I just want to go ahead and say something right now that a large part of the group that doesn't trust the media happen to be men. You're kind of picking up a bit of a correlation here. The people who don't trust the media are saying, screw the media, we're going to go vote for Trump anyways. That right there will be talked about a little bit more in the second half of the video, but let's continue.
I have the updated numbers as of 2023. Democrats, 58% trust the media, 29% of independents, and 11% of Republicans. So Republicans' trust has actually increased just a teeny bit. That's actually kind of interesting. But it's gone down across the board for everybody. The media is garbage. I don't see why anybody should trust it.
Tim Pool talking about the media, talking about media misconceptions, how the media is. That right there shouldn't surprise anybody. However, you guys are seeing something here in the B-roll footage. It's leftist content creator, streamer Vosh. You know, the guy who recently got caught with his corn file leaked. And of course, he had some extremely disturbing imagery on it. But back in 2023, he reached out to TYT, or TYT reached out to him, because apparently Vosh is like a men's rights activist somewhere. I don't really know exactly how much to what extent. But still, though, we all know exactly how far on the left he is. Now, granted, him and TYT are not on good terms, or at least him and Anna Kasparian are not on good terms. But there was one thing that Vosh did say that, quite frankly, I can't exactly, disagree with.
And as a product of that, a lot of guys feel like they have no social inroads and they're kind of drifting through life without connections to people. It really sucks. And the left could, use that as an opportunity to maybe improve some people's lives, introduce them to some other ideas.
So just full disclosure, when the statistics first started coming out and they focused.
Anna is 100% clueless. You see, the conversation that they were having was about how to make the left more appealing for men. You see, the left began to realize that they were losing men back in 2020. The numbers bear it out. However, the numbers that bear this out are kind of an illusion. Real American Politics actually did a study on the 2020 election. He came to the conclusion, very, very bright young guy. I advise you guys to go check him out. And also something else too, David Shor, Obama's former analytics guy, also came to the same conclusion that in reality, what really happened was that Trump actually saw a spike with women. They actually gained with women in 2022 in some places, which of course will make the extreme pro-life people who are saying we're not going to vote for Trump because he's not strong enough on abortion, even though he's the one who got Roe v. Wade overturned. Republicans actually made some gains in that area. The area that they actually lost a little bit at was actually with men. Now, you could say that it was the soy boys, and you could say that Trump brought more men in. It just so happened to be that more and more men were voting against COVID, voting against Trump. They voted for Biden. In some cases, even the soy boys themselves, who did not get what they wanted in 2016 with Bernie Sanders. I know it's completely confusing. I know it's absolutely insane. However, the thing is this right here. The attitude by which the current media, the current left-wing media and current left-wing streams and left-wing commentary channels are, you got to ask yourself a question. At some point in time, it was bound to happen. So you shouldn't be surprised, especially based upon how it is that our media attacks white men, black men, Hispanic men in general just for being men. You should not be surprised that a lot of these men have registered Republicans to vote for Donald Trump this cycle or vote Republican up ballot, despite the mainstream media and the leftist narrative. The left turned men off a long time ago. I don't think I need to go through every single detail, even though I'm going to leave this video right here from Sean Fitzgerald in the description box. And I'm also going to leave this video right here from this guy, a video that actually went viral, where it's basically just simply titled, "Whatever, I'm voting for Trump." We'll talk more about that in the second half of the video. But of course, we got to get back to the beanie guy, and we got to talk about the attitudes that exist towards men at this moment in time, or at least exactly how it is that men are responding to said attitudes that come from soy boy leftist billionaires like Mark Cuban, and of course those who love to pass judgment on men. But let's go ahead and watch.
America's veterans are going to have to ask if they can continue providing security for and guarding left-wing anti-American billionaires. A crisis of conscience is coming soon. Indeed, it is. It's a scary prospect. But I wonder. I really, really do. These anti-American billionaires. Bernie's got a point. I like Bernie. I think Bernie betrayed his values for political gain, and he's a coward. But I like when he goes up and he says, there are billionaires gutting and ripping apart this country. Yeah, they were on stage with you, Bernie. Then there are other there like I got no sympathy for the Koch brothers. They were huge.
I don't always agree with Mike Cernovich, but he's 100% correct. He is also a military veteran. I'm a military veteran, and I got to tell you right now, the billionaires of this country, or at least the left-wing billionaires of this country, and don't worry, I'll answer the Tim's thing because, of course, he's going to talk about Bernie here in a second. But the fact of the matter is that you've got a lot of people who just go out of their way to attack men and want to feminize overall society. That, by the way, will be a video in the future, too, probably a video essay type piece I'm going to make. Still, though, the point is this right here. We're running into a situation nowadays where men are, guess what, going to be needed. Right now, you've got a situation going on between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine literally just invaded Russia, and Russia, of course, this winter is probably going to counterattack. They're probably going to use those bombs that, quite frankly, they have that they can use if they really truly get pissed off. Attack another person's country, actually invade it, and see what that said country does when they actually go back on the counteroffensive. You've also got saber rattling between China and Taiwan. You've got people invading our border from the southern, invading the southern border from Mexico and South America. You've got a situation going on in Venezuela. That place right there looks like it's going to get hot someday. And you've also got everything going on in the Middle East. I have a feeling something is about to pop off here soon. It may take a year. It may take 7 years. It may be tomorrow. It may be before the time I finish recording this video. Fact of the matter is, men are in fact going to be needed, and men are not going to want to serve the current left-wing establishment that treats them like dog crap. And they just saw this week with Trump going to Arlington National Cemetery to lay the wreath at the changing of the guard ceremony to the day of the disaster in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris was nowhere to be found, the Democratic Party nominee. And to go on top of that, Joe Biden is currently sitting on a beach in Wilmington, Delaware. He was in California literally 2 or 3 days ago. I apologize if I was wrong in the last take, but I swear he was in California 2 or 3 days ago. Fact of the matter is, men do not feel respected, and the mainstream media is probably the biggest orator of the disrespect towards men as a whole. I mean, how many times have we got to hear, you're a GD white male? You're just a man in general. You don't go through what we go through. I hate to tell you this right now, but men are beginning to get pissed off. So no wonder men who were never politically activated before 2016 and 2020 are starting to get involved. And I hate to tell you this, it's a lot. A lot. Like, very, very much a lot. So maybe Trump doesn't have to change his tone. Just simply saying, a lot of more people are coming to vote for him this cycle than you might think. But let us continue.
It was cheap labor for him. Not a fan of that. That was Bernie who pointed that out. Young men are leaving the Democratic Party. In 2016, 51% of young men identified or leaned Democrat. In 2023, it dropped to 39%. I do think there are young men leaving the Democratic Party, but I'm going to say it again like I always do. We're talking 8 years ago. Well, by this standard, from 2016 to 2023, we're talking 7 years. But still, 7 years, it is not. You have to understand, 29-year-olds 7 years ago aren't in that bracket anymore. 23-year-olds also aren't being tracked by this number anymore. 18 to 29 stays where it is as the generations move through it, which means young men moving into the age of majority are less likely to support Democrats, and that is massive.
Men liked Bernie Sanders. They liked him back in 2016. I mean, why do you think we call them Bernie Bros? Why do you think we say? Well, why do you think we have so many former Bernie Bros now voting Republican or voting for Trump? They actually liked what Bernie was initially preaching. I know that part of that was in the last clip, but still, though, they actually liked what he was saying. They actually liked what he was talking about. Open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. Even libertarian men, people like that, were beginning to get involved. They actually liked Bernie. They didn't exactly like Trump at first, but Trump eventually won them over time. And of course, he's one of the other ones on. Not to mention, there's also the gamer factor too, which of course will probably be another video down the road. But you guys remember that end card, that thumbnail I just posted? Well, this guy made a video that went viral, simply titled, "Whatever, I'm voting for Trump." I just took a few bits out because this right here is what a lot of men, especially undecided men, are thinking at this moment in time, and he absolutely nails it. Let's watch the first part.
Have you ever seen those polls where like a certain percentage of people are planning to vote for Trump and certain other percentage of people Biden and some are undecided, and you think to yourself, who is undecided at this point? Well, me. Until recently. I was going back and forth on it, but I made my decision. Hi, my name is Charlie. and I am an independent voter living in the state of Pennsylvania. I have voted for both Democrats and Republican in the same election. The last midterms, I voted Republican for Senate and Democrat for governor. And unfortunately, as someone who used to hate his guts, I have to eat my own words. Things have come to this point where I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm voting for Trump. And as of this time of recording, there are talks of Biden dropping out because of his infirmity. But really does not matter. No matter who the Democratic nominee, I'm going to vote for Trump.
This video right here from a guy who's obviously Asian went viral for a reason. It's obviously a man, a young man who's right around 30 years old, as he revealed actually in the full bit. He has a channel. He's got a few videos out there. He talks about censorship and left-wing censorship and how it was that he did not like the orange guy at one point in time, but now he's very, very much on the man's side, seeing everything. Let's just say that everything that's going on. I mean, look, you got several conflicts overseas. You've got rampant inflation. The price of gas is through the roof. Your dollar doesn't exactly stretch as far as you want it to. So these types of things would obviously help to change somebody's mind. And then to go on top of that, even men get a little bit baffled by the abortion factor. They don't like the idea of a woman just getting pregnant, not letting them know anything about it, and just going to an abortion clinic and getting it taken care of right there. They don't like that. They don't like the idea of it. They also think society is becoming way too feminized. They didn't think Biden was going to help out with that, or they didn't think that Biden was going to aid too much into it. I mean, a lot of these people bought into the whole return to normalcy, and COVID was the chief issue of the day. That's why I keep on saying that a lot of the votes for Biden were just simply anti-Biden votes. And of course, Trump, whose male percent actually went down by 1, actually by 2, is probably going to spike by about 3 or 4 this cycle, maybe even 5, depending on the turnout. Fact of the matter is that it's this type of stuff right here that's got more and more men coming to the conservative party or coming to the Republican party. I say conservative because it's really a conservative nominee, because of course people are beginning to get tired of liberals. Even Tim Pool is a former Bernie bro who's not exactly conservative, even though he gets labeled as right-wing. The fact of the matter is he's now a Trump voter. And by the way, when RFK did drop out and endorse Trump, trust me, Trump will see a boost from that too. As a matter of fact, some of the polling data is beginning to indicate that. But a lot of people were listening to RFK do the rounds when it comes to podcasts. Maybe Trump picked that up from him. Who the hell knows? But this guy right here, in that very, very small bit, basically tells you, look, whatever, I'm voting for Trump. However, the more and more that you listen to this, the more and more you find that he's a guy who disliked Trump in 2016, didn't really and truly care too much about him in 2020, and over time began to see that, wait a minute, you people are freaking nuts. So, yeah, I'm going to vote for him this time around, but let's keep watching.
If you, the guardian, is under detention and there exists no one to take care of the minor, the state must step in and take custody of the minor. Happens all the time if you are a parent and you get arrested for a crime. Furthermore, if, because you're caught crossing the border with a minor, the government is then obliged to release you into the interior, that creates rather a perverse incentive structure for minors to be used and abused as a human shield by some who only pretend to be the parents of the minors to get into the United States.
It's starting to sound like somebody figured out that rhetoric is rhetoric and that the nation may have actually been better off under the nationalists than the bought and paid for politicians that, quite frankly, I don't think I got to say anything else, but let's continue.
At all. And that his rhetoric was only racist insofar as you projected racism into it. And why do that? Because you oppose his agenda. And then a few more years had to pass before I actually started liking him. So let me explain it to those of you who still don't see it, what I learned. First, with regards to his agenda that you consider to be extreme, you are editorializing. As in, there are ways to interpret that agenda to be rather plain, but you're injecting your belief system and hyperbole to make it sound extreme. Okay? Take child separation, for instance. When Trump began separating migrant children from their parents for detention, what do we hear? Oh, he's putting children in cages. That's what I also parroted mindlessly. But here's another way you could see it. When you break the law, Trump began separating migrant children from their parents for detention, what do we hear? Oh, he's putting children in cages. That's what I also parroted mindlessly. But here's another way you could see it. When you break the law, you are subject to detention. And if you, the guardian, is under detention and there exists no one to take care of the minor, the state must step in and take custody of the minor. Happens all the time if you are a parent and you get arrested for a crime. Furthermore, if, because you're caught crossing the border with a minor, the government is then obliged to release you into the interior, that creates rather a perverse incentive structure for minors to be used and abused as a human shield by some who only pretend to be the parents of the minors to get into the United States. Came onto the political scene in 2015. I hated his guts. I could not stand him. For years, I hated him. I was in college, I was young, inexperienced, and I could not understand why he was winning one Republican primary after another. And I was like, what do people see in him? I do not get it. And it took me a few years of living to realize, despite what I was being told over and over, what he's proposing, his agenda, it's not extreme.
Closing the border. What else? Lowering the price of food, gas. What else? Stronger military, peace through strength. He's also trying to unify. But once again, Orange Man bad. The guy just wants to give you a tax cut, that's all. It's good old-fashioned common sense. I mean, the people coming across the border, they obviously broke the law doing it. I understand that the border has been left wide open by Biden and Harris in particular, because she's the border czar, even though some people argue that Biden just kind of stuck her with it and she's just kind of paying the price for it. Still, though, she'll pay the price for it. Either way, it's still this administration. You brought these people across the border. You know that these kids are being used as human shields. You know that the cartel is using to try to traffic these kids, traffic all kinds of drugs. I mean, it's common sense that you would want these people locked up or at least detained for the time being so that way you could figure out what to do. Nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I remember the whole kids in cages thing, but of course the cages were actually built by the Obama administration, the deporter-in-chief, because Obama wanted to bring in new people, but of course he actually deported more than he brought in. But this guy right here continues, and of course you guys could see exactly what a lot of men in this nation are feeling right now. I don't think I need to talk about the migrant crisis. I don't think I need to talk about the debit cards. I don't think I need to talk about an entire race of people being replaced by another. By God, I've done a lot of videos on that. As a matter of fact, those are probably the two videos that I put in the end cards at the end of the video. The fact of the matter is that you guys can obviously see people are in fact fed up. However, it's not just the fact that men and people as a whole are fed up. It's also something else too that many people seem to forget about the average, ordinary, everyday worker. And of course, I'm going to let this part right here run out, and then I'm going to come on the other side and close this video out, giving you guys my final conclusion and my final point, because I think this next segment is exactly what the vast majority of people, sane, rational people who just want to be done with politics, are saying, and why it is they don't really truly care. We're just going to vote Trump regardless, because guess what? You people seriously do not understand what it is that we go through.
It's so funny. I'm almost 30 now. I spent half of my 20s in school and the other half out in the real world. I went to a great college, an elite law school, rubbed shoulders with some really impressive people. But on the other hand, the other half of my 20s, I had also worked in the food court, as a bank teller, worked as a server for many years across a few Korean restaurants. And I'm still working part-time as a server. And I gotta tell you, the way people talk between these two worlds is night and day. And what I mean by that is, they say, how the hell does Trump appeal to the working class? He's a billionaire born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Well, here's the thing I didn't know in my younger years. The way he talks, the things that he says that you think are unfathomably outrageous, you should know this is how the working man talks. You would know had you ever held the job of the working man. The comments that would compel the upper crust to clutch their pearls are said by rote by the working man. And guess what? Most people are not looking to be offended anywhere and everywhere.
The way Trump comes off is definitely a selling point for a lot of young men. You see, a lot of these young men work service jobs. They can see their hours getting cut, and in some cases, they're having to work 2 or 3 jobs. That right there is the real truth about the unemployment rate. And a lot of these jobs, by the way, are getting given to illegals. Most of these jobs that the Biden administration claims that they created, as you guys already know, are bounce back jobs. The hours are not there for a lot of these people, and obviously the working man is beginning to feel the weight of the economy. But something else too you got to understand, what he said about the working man, how the working man talks. Yes, that right there is how the working man talks. Ask anybody who's ever worked retail. Ask anybody who's ever worked a service job. Ask anybody who's ever worked in food service. Ask anybody who's ever worked a blue collar job. Chances are you probably talk like a normal person, whereas if you see somebody that works a more white collar job, not trying to pass judgment or anything, chances are they're probably going to seem a little bit aghast, like he said, by the overall rhetoric or what's being said. Because let's be honest, you can say certain things or you can get away with certain things inside of a workplace. And of course, if you work in the white collar field, you obviously have to be much, much more professional. Therefore, your language has been curtailed. Which brings me to one last point before I conclude this video. Now, let me say this. Shortly after the 2016 presidential election, the people that I knew that worked in white collar fields, office, administrative jobs, I don't know, handling insurance claims, a lot of these were people that did not work any types of service jobs, or they did work them when they were in high school and eventually just moved on, graduated to starter jobs. Just got away from it, moving on to bigger and better things. A lot of these people had kind of sort of, how do I say, they had changed their tune over the years. Now, I'm not saying these people were wrong for doing that. Obviously, as you grow up, you mature. People mature in different ways. Some people still have a great big giant mouth and run their mouth a lot, and some people still cuss a lot. I mean, off camera, I cuss a lot more because obviously here on camera, I can't do that or else YouTube will limit the ads of this video. But still, at the same time, though, normal people talk normal ways. People on blue-collar jobs talk certain ways. People on white-collar jobs talk certain ways as well. I'm pretty sure if we all came together, we'd have a better understanding of what's going on. Or at least we'd have a better understanding of who each person is and what it is that they do and why it is the way they are. When Trump came around, a lot of the white-collar types, a lot of the stiff upper lip types, they got kind of upset about this because they thought that this guy who was orange, who was a businessman, who had also had a show called The Apprentice, they thought it was an absolute joke that he became president. And they thought it was an even bigger joke that people voted for him. Myself being one of those who did vote for him, who voted for him in 2020, who would vote for him again. That right there is how out of touch we are as a society. I hate to say this real quick, but the YouTube channel The Take, they're a little bit left-leaning, but they had a very good video on this where right there at the very, very end, the 2016 election was touched. Now, granted, you see the trash, you see the title, and you may already be put off. However, in the last 5 minutes of said video, there's a lot of very good stuff at the very end that explains exactly how it was that suburban America, or white suburbia, was so disconnected from the white working class and thus also the Hispanic and the black working class of this nation. So what's my conclusion? My conclusion is that Donald Trump is getting more and more and more male votes and more male support because males have finally woken up and decided to get involved in this election cycle. They're tired of the wokeness. They're tired of the political correctness. They don't see COVID. They're tired of being forced to work a butthole job, not making any money, not letting their money to stretch. And they also don't like the prospect of possibly being forced to fight a war they quite frankly didn't ask for, especially when the previous administration had been one of peace. I think that right there is what's going on. It's another reason why it is that so many more men are getting involved. Now, is that a winning strategy? Well, if you get enough of them, then yeah. If you get enough of them to go along with the women, and don't worry, we'll talk about the women in Friday's video. Speaking of that, I want to go ahead and try to work on that one. As you guys know, where I told you guys I'm not going to be here on Thursday or Friday. Actually, I'll be leaving tomorrow afternoon. I probably won't be back until Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, right around lunchtime. And the only video I plan on releasing this week is probably an updates video to let you guys know how I'm doing, to let you guys know that I'm still kicking, I'm still alive. Still, though, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Please leave a comment. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.